Yeah, the black cards that Thompson does have access to that he had in the draft, if those of you just joining us, complete disregards in the sideboard, Demon's Grasp, Celestial Healer, Malik, you're familiar.
And if you want to know why Thompson's deck ended up being a bit of a mess, Aaron Lewis, also in the pod, came up to me after deck construction, but before round one, showed me his deck, heavy green element.
Yeah.
It's tough for green to support multiple drafters here, and all the Tajuru War Callers that Thompson was hoping to get, well, they're in Aaron Lewis's deck.
It's Sludge Crawler, and now there's a fortified Rampart there from Thompson. Finkel will play an island, and he'll just pass the turn back over to Thompson, who will draw. It's a forest, and now it's a Lifespring Druid. Finkel on the end step will play a copy of Anticipate, so we'll take a look at the top couple of cards here and take one with him.
Very important for Thompson to have that fortified Rampart, as you see Finkel looking at Wasteland Strangler with that Anticipate.
Swamp the draw. Now here's a Transgress the Mind. So Finkel will get an idea of what Thompson is working with there. A Hedron Archive, a Tajuru Beastmaster, among others here. There's also McKindy Patrol.
Nice looking hand for Thompson. I think the way that he constructed his deck was just to lean on the Tajuru Beastmasters along with all of his token generation. He picked up a lot of that kind of stuff through packs 2 and 3.
4 copies of Tajuru Beastmaster in the deck. We saw him take so many during the draft, and he's playing all of them that he did take. And again, if you have paid attention to his articles and his social media, he has felt that green is certainly draftable, it is certainly playable, this is being overblown by the community, and that Tajuru Beastmaster is actually the way that you make this work. Now, we'll see if he's right about that. This will be a small sample size, of course, but additionally, there were a ton of those in the draft that he could have taken, so it feels as though if we just base it off of the draft and how the cards were coming around, people did not find that card to be very good.
Finkel there selecting the Hedron Archive. If the game's going to go on for a long time, that's a hand there from Thompson that's very hard to poke a hole in, and the Hedron Archive just facilitates a lot of his big plays and is worth 2 cards somewhere down the line.
Eyeless Watcher, the play. Couple of Scions, pass the turn back. It's not hard for him to get to the Beastmaster.
Yeah, and I think that's Finkel's philosophy here is to be able to get to the Beastmaster, he has to draw running lands. It's going to take a little while. It means he's not doing all that much else. If he selects the Beastmaster there with a discard spell, then he's liable for any big play for Thompson to be able to cast because Thompson would have the Hedron Archive in play.
Cloud Manta, passing of the turn. Thompson will draw a card. Looks like he picked up a Plains for the turn. We'll see if he wants to try to deploy the Beastmaster that he does have in his hand. Looks like it'll just be a giant mantis.
Thompson, now for the second time in the game, the perfect blocker for Finkel's threat.
Indeed. Line number 5 here for John as a Swamp.
I mean, Thompson's board does not look great, but you can see what the strategy is here. Come up the works, flood the board, and allow these Tajuru Beastmasters to do a lot of work.
He's just trying to go wide.
And Finkel's got a lot of power in his deck in a variety of ways. He doesn't brawl all that well.
Looks like he's going to play a complete disregard here. That's going to go after the Giant Mantis. This is going to allow Finkel to start attacking in the air, so he'll come across with 3 with the Cloud Manta. And now Thompson will draw. It's an island.
So did the Royal Spout get in the deck? Is this for the Unified Front?
Taking a little look. Unified Front is in there. And the Royal Spout's in there as well. Now here's the Beastmaster.
Now with the trigger, these become 2/2s. Finkel even blocking and pumping the Sludge Crawler. That's only a trade with any of these threats.
Yep. So there's the Tajuru Beastmaster. Getting some work done. Remember Thompson with 4 of those in his deck. 1 card left in Gerry's hand. His island is the draw here for John Finkel. He'll deploy that island. That's land 6. Might have a Demon's Grasp. Yep, that's going to take care of the Beastmaster. Pass the turn back. Thompson will quickly untap and take a draw here. Picks up an island. MTG Patrol in hand. Cloud Manta hanging back on D.
Yeah, Thompson with so many 1/1s there. Finkel without the mana left over to pump the Sludge Crawler, so I think Finkel just wants to hold back for one turn, be able to block Thompson's sea of 1/1s.
Curious if Thompson maybe offer up an attack here.
I could see him attacking with the Druid, because if Finkel trades with the Flyer, that's awesome for Thompson. If Thompson trades with if Finkel trades with the Sludge Crawler, then at least that frees up all the 1/1s that Thompson has in play to attack the next turn.
Yep.
He can't really do anything with them as long as Finkel has a Sludge Crawler and 2 mana available.
Well, Sludge Crawler's going to block. And now we're going to head back Finkel's way. He'll draw. He does have Wasteland Strangler in hand.
I believe Coastal Discovery as well, which was his first pick in pack 1.
Here comes the Manta. And here's 5 mana. Let's see what this is. It's going to be a Rush of Ice. And that land has been awoken.
Same deal as for Finkel, just clocking in the air and trying to have one blocker back on defense to contain Thompson's board of small creatures.
Rush, a very powerful card. And the Forest.
Definitely has its moments, and it has its advocates. I know a lot of people who think, fringe playable, not something they want in the deck, and some people, especially in decks filled with flyers, where they're trying to damage race, feel the card's actively good, the card they're seeking out.
3 in the air here from Finkel. Thompson's going to fall down to 11. The follow-up is a Drana. And now Corahelm Guide.
Ooh, combo.
Indeed. Thompson will draw. I believe he found a copy of the Beastmaster.
But even the Beastmaster doesn't really allow him to attack with very much in the face of the 3/3 on the other side of the table.
2/3 as well. And Drana. Makes it tough.
Yeah, I mean, he gets to attack with basically just the 2/2 when it becomes a 3/3.
Beastmaster will trigger. Here comes MTG Patrol. Appears what it needs to be, though, is something like another Beastmaster off the top.
Well, I think that Finkel may have the game on board now. He attacks with his 2 flyers and uses the Guide to make the land unblockable. So that's +2 points, +6 is 8. No, Thompson will go to 1.
Yep.
Okay, he's
another turn.
Yeah, he gets 1 more turn.
You're doing the math on Drana's pump there.
Right.
Yeah.
Finkel can obviously attack in the clear with the flyers, and he can use the Corahelm Guide to make the land or the Guide unblockable. So that's also an attack if he wants it.
What this really displays is, one, the power of the Corahelm Guide being able to make something unblockable to finish the game off, but also flying.
There is some danger here, though, for Finkel. Thompson does... There are draws in the format that are very powerful for him right now. And the straightforward line of play here for Finkel is attack with the 2 flyers, untap, attack you again. And that's game. Chump block out of your attack the next turn. It's possible Finkel will determine that he needs to leave one of the flyers back to have another chump blocker available should it come to that, and try to win with the 2 flyers the next turn.
Bunch of mana. There's Coastal Discovery. That land is huge now. Finkel will draw 2 cards.
So the issue here for Finkel, you could say, all right, make an attack with 1 flyer here, hold back everything, block out of the next turn, and then kill you with the Corahelm Guide. The problem is that if Thompson forces a block with the Corahelm Guide, assuming he has some big play, then suddenly your land's no longer good to attack. So there's no guarantee you necessarily connect for lethal next turn.
Time for Thompson to draw. Picks up a Plains.
Now, with Thompson drawing a land, it's irrelevant. There's not a good attack for him to make.
It's a lot easier now.
Yeah. But I think Finkel did a very good job here of protecting himself from Thompson having a huge draw. The straightforward thing to do is just ship your flyer, ship him again next turn. But Finkel knows that that opens him up to certain top decks, killing him.
Looks like everybody's going to come into the red zone here. The Coral Helm Guide's going to make the Awoken Island unblockable, and that is going to do it. John Finkel's going to win game number 1 here over Gerry Thompson. Finkel's straightforward but powerful blue-black deck up a game here over Thompson in his green-white with a small splash of blue deck. These players are going to go to the sideboard now. I'm taking a look at some things again. This is a little bit different from Sealed, where Sealed you've got a huge sideboard to work with because all of your extra cards. Here you don't. You try to draft cards with the sideboard of games in mind and maybe potential cards that your deck is weak to, but for the most part, that's not really, they're not going to be a ton of options here.
Yeah, the only card that stands out to me as a powerful sideboard card for Finkel, he has a Dispel. And there's going to be matchups where that card comes in. The rest of his sideboard, probably not. I mean, he has cards for, like, Calistria Night Watch, which are good against some mid-range ground pounder decks, because a 4 or 5 for 5 is just pretty large, larger than anything else he has. But I think the sideboarding is going to be pretty light. He also has Scour from Existence if he happens to play against a deck with some problematic permanent he can't remove otherwise. But 7 mana is not trivial for John's deck to get to. He's not trying to really ramp up to anything. His curve is fairly low. He's playing 18 lands, 17 basics, and a Blighted Fen. And the Fen is kind of a spell, somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, somewhere. Feels like half a land, half a spell.
Right. 18 lands and Blighted Fen is a very common mana base for me for my normal, non-synergistic black decks. Black, red, and black, blue. I play that mana base quite frequently.
Well, Thompson will be on the play here for game number 2. I suppose he has the decision. Yesterday we saw a lot of drawing, but I think this draft format's a play first format.
Yeah, I mean, Finkel's shown cards like Sludge Crawler, and he didn't see any ingesting going on in Finkel's deck, game 1. But that's a very dangerous card to take the draw against because it's such a powerful enabler for any sort of ingesting strategy, any sort of processing strategy.
Well, if you are just joining us, Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan here in the booth, bringing you Grand Prix Atlanta, hosted by StarCityGames.com and at CG Live, hashtag GP Atlanta all weekend long for your tweets as we make our way through 6 rounds of action here before making a cut to the top 8. Going to be watching Battle for Zendikar booster draft all weekend long. And right now, we are watching 2 players here in John Finkel and Gerry Thompson. Had a great day 1. Both those players going 8-1 with their Shield decks. Finkel with a nice blue-black deck that he's drafted here, that he does have a Drana. And just a lot of good blue and black commons and uncommons. And then Gerry Thompson on the other side here with a green-white deck where things may not have broke his way, I think he would say, as far as the packs are concerned.
He described his draft and deck as a train wreck. That's a direct quote. But I think that's true up to a point. I think that the packs did break poorly for him.
Yeah.
I think he put himself in a spot where if green was open, his deck was going to be great, and it looked like in pack 1, green was going to be pretty open. And I think he also put himself, when that wasn't really working out, he selected enough mana fixing to be able to be responsive towards bombs that got passed to him, and nothing really opened up on that front either. So he's just kind of got a mismatch of allies, tokens, and not a lot of raw power.
Both players are going to take a look at the openers. And Gerry has elected to draw.
All right.
So there you go. Looks like Finkel's going to keep, and Thompson will take a mulligan. So down to 6 he goes. So we'll see what Finkel can get done on the play here. Again, we're going to be keeping our eyes on this pot all the way around. So Finkel and Thompson are the players we're going to be focusing on for the next couple of rounds here to see how they end up with their decks. It's always interesting to see when you're doing a Magic Online direct or something like that, or watching limited content online for Magic, how someone will do with their deck all the way through the draft. So that's the experience that we're going to bring to you here this weekend. So we'll be seeing a lot of Finkel and his blue-black deck over the next couple of hours. Same thing can be said for Thompson and his green-white deck, and see what they're able to put together as far as records are concerned.
Yeah, I think there's something a lot more engaging about you get to be in the player's seat. You get to look at their decisions, maybe see what you or feel like what you would have done differently, and then watch the games play out.
Yeah.
So people like watching draft streams.
Yes.
You know, you get to see the full experience, and we're trying to do that. And we've got 2 very good players with which to do that in John Finkel and Gerry Thompson.
6 cards here for Thompson. He's going to keep. Now it's time for the Vancouver Mulligan Scry. Top card to the bottom. A swamp to start game 2 here for Finkel. A forest there for Thompson. Swamp for Finkel. Thompson will draw. He'll play a Plains, pass the turn back. Finkel with a third swamp.
I believe his hand is lacking blue mana at this point.
Thompson with a forest and a Lifespring Druid, where he has multiple copies of that card, 3 in the main deck. Finkel with land number 4, another swamp here for John. He'll use complete disregard to take care of the Lifespring Druid.
Could have played the Silent Skimmer there, but I think Finkel just wants to buy as much time as possible to draw blue mana.
There's a Giant Mantis. Finkel's draw step here yields him a blue. So he will get to play some of those blue cards now.
And the Lifespring Druid from Thompson may yield a play the next turn that's bigger than something complete disregard can kill. So for a couple of reasons there, Finkel just using the removal spell. Though now, he has to play against Giant Mantis, and that's a pretty good blocker against his deck. He's got a lot of fragile flyers, and not a whole lot of removal for this creature.
There's the Skimmer. Finkel will pass back over to Thompson. Thompson, remember, taking a mulligan this game, but chose to draw first, so kind of undoing the mulligan there. There's a Plains. Lifespring Druid, pass the turn back.
Interesting here that Thompson, no interest in a damage race. Could just attack there, trade 2 points for 2 points. Slowing it down.
Here comes the Skimmer. You get the trigger, of course. Now there's a Mind Raker. There's a card to process there, so Thompson will have to discard. And he'll discard. Wow.
Ooh. Okay, someone's got a hand.
He discarded Stasis Snare fast. Jeez. There's Beastmaster.
That's one of those good news, bad news sort of spots for Finkel. Good news is you got Stasis Snare for your Mind Raker. Bad news is you got Stasis Snare for your Mind Raker, where the opponent had 3 cards in their hand.
Here's an Anticipate on the unstep by John. Cloud Manta, Sludge Crawler, Ulamog's Nullifier. I mean, Gerry couldn't discard that Stasis Snare fast enough.
Yeah, there was no hesitation.
Man. Anticipates on resolving. Yields Ulamog's Nullifier. Finkel will draw. Does have a copy of Clutch Occurrence in hand. I think he's going to go that route with Awaken. Potentially.
And you're getting a pretty good shot this turn if you do that. It's an attack for 8. Just get Thompson down to 10. But assuming you're bouncing the Beastmaster,
which it looks like he will be,
Thompson just does get to replay it, and then the 3/3s you have on the ground aren't worth a whole lot the next turn unless you have a follow-up play.
Thompson will draw. He's down to 10.
Giant Mantis really good against a variety of flyers in this format, not so much against the Silent Skimmer.
Yep. Beastmaster, pass the turn back. No attack here from Thompson. Finkel will draw.
Thompson, respecting the possibility here of a follow-up removal spell or bounce spell on the Beastmaster, wants to leave one of his 2/4 back in the face of the 3/3s on the ground.
Finkel with an Eldrazi Sky Spawner, among other things in hand. He'll come across here with the Skimmer, so Thompson is going to lose 2, fall down to 8. There's the Sky Spawner. Now we head back Thompson's way. Swamp the draw. So perhaps the complete disregards came in here for Gerry.
Maybe. Finkel definitely showed a lot of high-value targets, so.
See what's next here for Gerry. He's behind here on the board and in terms of life as well. 17-8 in favor of Finkel.
But not that far behind on the board.
There's a plummet to take care of the skimmer. That will resolve. Now I believe a Seek the Wilds. So we'll take a look at a couple of cards here. Take a look at the top four. You may reveal a creature or land card among them, put in your hand. The rest go to the bottom. Looks like a tough decision here for Gerry.
Looks like Plated Crusher among the options he's looking at here.
Typically good against the blue-black deck. Yeah, he's going to go with the Crusher. Rest are going to go to the bottom. I don't believe any real good attacks to be had here.
But if he doesn't attack it, it leaves Finkel with no good attacks on the way back.
Yeah. So he will just pass the turn.
Thompson's plan here might just be hang back, play Plated Crusher, try to block, and then use that to start getting on the offense. Finkel will likely have to double block to get it off the table. That'll clear the way for the Beastmaster. You go from there.
Another Sky Spawner here from Finkel. Bring another Scion along with it. Plains the draw there for Thompson. Plated Crusher could be on the way here in just a moment.
The risk here is that if Finkel does have a counterspell, Thompson has to tap the Druid to be able to get the Plated Crusher into play, and then Finkel does have a good attack just on the table.
There's Plated Crusher. And it's a Spell Shrivel to take care of it.
That was the worst case scenario there for Thompson. I feel like he had to make the attack. He had to try to get that thing into play, get something going. He wasn't going to be able to play around Spell Shrivel anyway, but now he's vulnerable to a good attack from Finkel just on the table.
Cards line up very, very well there for Finkel.
He can't kill Thompson this turn. You can already say Finkel's got the block sorted out here. Beastmaster going in front of Mindraker. The Giant Mantis blocking one of the Sky Spawners. That's 7 points of damage coming across the table. Finkel loses 2 creatures, though. Then he goes down to 4 creatures against 3 on the table. If Thompson can find another blocker the next turn, if Finkel has no other follow-up, the board's at parity. He can't necessarily get through the last point.
Sure.
I do believe he has Ulamog's Nullifier in hand, though, which is enough to make this attack viable.
Yeah.
Also a card that's very hard for Thompson to play around. It's an uncommon. You haven't seen it yet. So I think that's Finkel's plan here. It's a risky Alpha Strike, but I think it's one that's likely to work out the next turn.
Oh, over to Thompson we'll go. He'll draw, Plains in hand. I believe he drew another copy to Jiro Beastmaster. He'll play that. On with Oran Reef. There's the instant speed creature, and that is going to do it. John Finkel's going to win this match over Gerry Thompson, 2-0. The blue-black deck will take care of the green-white with some small splashes there for Gerry Thompson. For John Finkel, he will win this match and move on to 9-1, 1-0 in his pod so far.
Pretty big discrepancy in power level between the two decks here.
I agree.
Thompson, vulnerable to flyers. He did have a Giant Mantis, but Finkel was able to work around that in the games, once with a removal spell, once with Silent Skimmer and a wide board doing a lot of work.